All right, you guys, let's get in between these headlines. A lot of bombshell headlines going on today. We're going to get through all of them. Now, I want to give you guys a reminder that we don't look at headlines because we believe everything they say. We read between the headlines so we can try and anticipate the moves of the enemy and try to identify the trends of their programming. Now, this is important because what they're sending out into the mainstream is meant to shape and mold people's minds. And if we could take a step back and look at the stories in sum total, that gives us a snapshot into what's really going on, what their plans are, things like that, right? I just want to let everybody know, because every once in a while I'll get a person criticize what we're doing here and saying, why are you reading the headlines? Well, because the headlines is the programming. If we ignore that, then we're ignoring what's happening around us. Now, understand that even as I read these stories, and I'm speaking about it as if it happened, that it's quite possible that some of these stories never happened. What's important is the messaging being delivered in the story. That is what is important. And that's why we call these shows Between the Headlines. Now, the messaging that this shows that they're seeming to project is that the Pokemon sticker mandates are beginning to crumble. That's what they are starting to project in the media. And that's why this particular show was so important, because the headlines are now seeming to indicate that the sticker mandates and everything that they put behind it is starting to crumble. Now, will they actually crumble? Well, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but that's the messaging that they're starting to put forward. Now, here's the first story. Now, we were just talking about lottery balls, weren't we? And spamdemics when we were decoding the film Contagion last week. Remember that? Well, the Matrix just manifested another lottery story. And what is this about? Well, it's talking about a lottery that they did to challenge the mandates. Let's read this. This is Time Magazine. A quirky ping pong ball lottery just dealt a blow to Bo Jiven's mandate. President Bo Jiven speaks in the South Court Auditorium in the White House campus October 14, 2021 about the spamdemic, encouraging states and businesses to support the mandates. A peculiar ping pong ball lottery, think NBA draft, only required by federal law, on Tuesday dimmed the fate of Bo Jiven's new mandate governing Vidco 19 requirements for large employers. OSHA issued an emergency rule on November 4th, and it was almost immediately challenged. More than 24 Republican-led states, as well as companies, business groups, unions, and religious organizations, filed nearly 36 lawsuits challenging the mandate. In a bad sign for the mandate, the lottery consolidated all these cases under the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, where a majority of the justices have been appointed by Republican presidents. So they're basically saying it will be a miracle if these judges rule in favor of the mandate. And all of this came down to a lottery and ping pong balls. So we all know this is coding. They love these ping pong balls, right? They are always talking about this lottery thing. And we've dug into that from time to time in the past about the esoteric meaning of these ping pong balls, about the cosmic serpent, and the whole belief that life was seeded throughout the universe with ping pong balls. So we've talked all about that. Now, here's our main story for today, switching gears a bit. And this is the one I was really anxious to present to you guys because this is huge. There have been calls by medical authorities for an investigation into what appears to be a surge of death. And they're saying that it's completely unrelated to Vidco 19. Almost 10,000 more people than usual have died from conditions unrelated to Vidco since July. Now, this is in the UK. I don't want to, we have a lot of folks in the UK that come to the channel, but I want to be clear here. They're not saying this is happening in the United States yet. But you have to ask the question, what is killing these people? Now, I can tell you by personal experience that even though this story is coming out of England, I'm looking around me at my own circle of friends and family and acquaintances, and more people than ever are dying around me for very odd reasons, like clud blots, we have to call it, or CANCER, or heart attacks, way more than usual, way more than this time last year or the year before. And I'm sure that if anybody bothered to look, they would see the same thing. It's interesting. To this day, I don't know anyone in my circle of friends or family that have died from Vidco. But interestingly, a lot of people are dying from other things this year. Now, what is the variable? What is the thing that's changed? Well, we all know what it is. I can't tell you what I think it is. But you guys are smart, and you know how to connect the dots. Now, let's read this article. We're going to read this from top to bottom because this is very, very important. And maybe we can find some clues as to what they're trying to blame this bizarre surge of death on. Unexplained surge in non-Vidco deaths triggers calls for probe. 9,300 more people than usual have died from conditions unrelated to Vidco since July. Experts are demanding an urgent inquiry into whether thousands of non-Vidco deaths in July could have been prevented. Figures show a devastating surge of 20,000 additional deaths in England and Wales in the past 4 months compared with the average for the same period in 5 years up to 2019. Of these extra fatalities referred to as excess deaths, 45% were not related to Vidco. So what then were they related to? Is the big question. Let me make sure you guys are with me and we'll continue reading the story. This is big news. This should be front page news. Although a higher mortality rate is expected this time of year, concerns are growing in the NHS. Delays during the spamdemic have left patients with previously treatable conditions suffering illnesses that have now become fatal. The Chancellor last month committed $5.9 billion of extra funding to help tackle the healthcare crisis, but almost 6 million people in England remain on waiting lists for elective procedures. So they're trying to say it's from the backlog of medicine, and they're going to blame that on Vidco. They're talking about ambulance wait times. The question is, why are these people getting sick? Why are these people getting sick? Considerable excess numbers of deaths in people's own homes compared to 2015 through 2019. The Times reported last week that the latest figures show that private homes are the only setting where deaths in England and Wales have been consistently above the pre-spamdemic average every month from January 2020 to 2021. They're saying it's driven by conditions including heart disease and dementia, which were the leading causes of death in England and Wales in September following Vidco-19. The spamdemic appears to have had an indirect effect on the rates of death. Yeah. Wonder how many of those people had Pokemon stickers. They're saying it's a combination of factors which may include health service disruption, people choosing to stay away from healthcare settings, or terminally ill people staying at home rather than being admitted to other settings for end-of-life care. There's a call for a probe. If you look at where the excess is happening, it's the conditions like ischemic heart disease, cirrhosis of the liver, diabetes. Wow. So I guess we're going to have to follow this story and see what's going on with this. And, I doubt that anyone's going to make the connections, but we all know what's going on. Now, what's our next story here? Here's another bizarre story, which should be front page news. Many of you have already seen this story, but there was a vial labeled smallpox and was found in Philadelphia. Let's read these next two stories here. FBI investigating vials labeled smallpox found in a lab near Philadelphia. Now, this broke a couple days ago. Here's the vial here. Wow. So what's this about? Well, they're investigating questionable vials labeled smallpox and found in a freezer last night at a Merck facility. These are the people making the Pokemon stickers, right? There were reportedly a total of 15 questionable vials. And they were, according to the unclassified 4 official use only alert, copy of which was obtained by Yahoo News. 5 of the vials were labeled smallpox and 10 were labeled Pokemon sticker. Or that. They were secured immediately. Discovery of the vials prompted a lockdown of the facility, which has since been lifted. They're launching an investigation. There's no indication anyone's been exposed to the small number of frozen vials. The question is, why are these vials just floating around? Is this a precursor to a bigger event that they wish to launch? These are the questions we need to be asking. It says the vial's contents appear intact. The lab worker who discovered the vials was wearing gloves and a face mask. Wow, this is huge. Here they are in their suits here. This typical thing you see, right? The scientists have debated for years whether to destroy any remaining samples, citing the danger of a mishap that could unleash the disease that has been eradicated since the 70s. The majority of Americans are not Pokemon stickered against smallpox, and those who are Pokemon stickered would likely now have waning immune the city. Wow. So, there's no indication that anyone has been exposed to the small number of frozen vials. Wow. Let's see if this story gives us any additional information. I got a picture of the smallpox here. Unbelievable. So, we're entering the winter here, and these are the things that they are putting on the minds of the American people. A lot of this probably has to do with fear-mongering to get people in this state of mind, to induce them to do things that they wouldn't normally do. Now check out this USA Today story. Talk about a glitch in the matrix. Now, even though this article argues the validity of the mandate or the invalidity of the mandate, understand that they still want to program you in this article to induce you to get a Pokemon sticker. Bo Jiven wants your boss to force you to get a Pokemon sticker. That's not how it should work. So it's interesting because they spend the whole entire first part of this article justifying the Pokemon sticker. And then in one little small area, they talk about, but they shouldn't be able to force this. So this whole thing, they want us to believe this whole thing is starting to come crumbling down. Let's read part of this. I got the Pokemon sticker, and I'm grateful to be. But that doesn't mean that I think the federal government should bully employees in medium and large businesses into getting the Pokemon sticker as well. So, the government is turning employers who are not paid by nor work for the government into an army of Pokemon enforcers. Now, this has been the complaint for a long time. This is what happened with the In-N-Out burger. They were like, you're turning us into enforcers. We're not going to do it. And look what happened to that place. They shut them down. So then there's more programming here. Oh, a tremendous tragedy. 750,000 deaths. But we're no longer in March 2020. Pokemon stickers are readily available. See, more programming. And the booster seat. Sure, breakthroughs can occur, which I know firsthand. So there's more breakthrough programming. But then at the end of this, they say, but they shouldn't force people to get the Pokemon sticker under threat of losing their job. So why would they do a story like this? Well, I don't know, but it's weird. glitch in the matrix for sure. Now, what else do we have here? Well, they even ran this story saying that no Pokemon sticker requirement is now a job perk that is being offered by employers. So they're saying basically, hey, come work for us. We're not requiring it. See how the tide seems to be shifting? This is a completely different message than the one we've been seeing for almost 2 years straight. Shaming people, right? Threatening people, calling us walking weapons. And now all of a sudden they're running these stories. Now I wouldn't rest on our laurels yet, but this is what they're talking about. No Pokemon sticker requirement is the new job perk offered by some employers. In the current tight labor market, employers have become more creative to attract workers. From sign-in bonuses to increased wages, companies are willing to up their ante. The new perk? No Pokemon sticker needed. As of the 5th of November, fewer than 0.01% of job postings and 0.01% of U.S. searches contain the phrase, no Pokemon sticker required. Notice how they're hinging the story on the 5th of November, which we've talked about as being an occult holiday, the end of Halloween, but also a date of sacrifice. Meanwhile, 2.53% of U.S. job postings on Indeed mention requiring a Pokemon sticker. On Tuesday, a search conducted by CNN Business for no Pokemon sticker required listings on Indeed's website returned about 230 results. So, some employers are offering this as a perk that you don't need a Pokemon sticker. Wow. Now, this next article seems to be opening the debate on whether or not it's legal to fire somebody or refuse employment. Let's read this. Baltimore Sun. Can workers who are fired for refusing the Vidco Pokemon sticker collect unemployment insurance or sue their employer? Maybe. So, after they went out and told all these employers, do exactly what you want. Fire these people, get rid of them. You don't need to wait for the mandate. Just do it. There won't be any repercussions. Now, all of a sudden, they're saying, oh, wait a minute. Maybe they can sue you. This is crazy, you guys. This is full-on chaos going on right now. And it's meant to produce chaos. They basically put the employers in the hot seat. They shifted all of basically the, what's the word I'm looking for? Responsibility, all the liability onto these employers, and now they're going to hang them out to dry. This is why you never, ever do anything these people say. With visitors barred from visiting during the Vidco spam-demic, Ellen Metzger would rub her dying patients' feet, comb their hair, and sing to their favorite hymns. What is this about? She was a nurse for 6 years. She'd become hardened to the losses, but the absence of family's bedside challenged her resolve. Something else eroded her commitment even more. Employers, state, and federal mandates for Vidco Pokemon stickers. She refused. I've been made to feel like I'm a bad nurse and putting patients at risk, and that I don't care. And I couldn't be further from the truth, she said. I appreciate the concern and wanting to keep patients safe and looking at science, but the science I'm looking at doesn't tell me the same thing. She left her job and is considering applying for unemployment insurance. Others are likely to follow suit as they start to bump against Vidco mandates. The mandates will test how far workers will go when their livelihood or any income is on the line. Wow. So they're saying that basically some states, it's well defined what rights workers have when they quit. Will they get unemployment insurance or will they not? But other states, it's less clear cut. They are considering mitigating factors and so on and so forth. So I think the takeaway, the between the lines in this article is that federal government tried to push something through, gave employers a false sense of security, but now the employers are hanging in the wind. It's maybe they could get sued or maybe not. Think of all the lawsuits people are filing at this point if they are being denied their benefits after they quit, right? So, as a result of this shifting tide, OSHA has suspended the enforcement of the mandate. Now, this is pretty huge because things are moving back the other way, or at least it's the appearance of it. This was dated the 17th, which was yesterday. OSHA suspended implementation and enforcement of Bo Jiven's mandate for private employers after a federal court blocked the measure. Wow. And their website says, while OSHA remains confident in the authority to protect workers in emergencies, they have suspended activities related to the implementation and enforcement of the ETS pending future developments in the litigation. So they're waiting until some of these cases are heard. This thing might even reach the Supreme Court. Take no steps to implement or enforce the mandate the court ordered. So, we will see what happens here. Things are starting to shift the other way. But look at this. Oddly, well, not so oddly, Bo Jiven is staying firm with his federal employees, which includes the military, betraying the very freedoms that these people were told they were fighting for. Think of the hypocrisy of this as the battle lines have been drawn. States are the ones leading with policies of freedom with respect to these mandates, while the feds, they're always the one on their rooftops, always screaming freedom, freedom, and why we have to do things in the name of freedom. All the while, they're squashing the free will of their own military. The Navy sailors who refuse Vidco Pokemon sticker will be discharged and face other administrative actions. So, there you go. I can't imagine anybody ever again should sign up for the military, because this is how they treat you. Disposable heroes. Now, New York City correctional officers are making a stand too, refusing the Pokemon sticker, despite the looming mandate sparking fears of Riker's catastrophe. I don't know what that is. Department of Corrections Vidco Pokemon sticker rate hasn't improved in more than 2 weeks, with nearly half of the agency's uniformed workforce still refusing to get their Pokemon sticker. Wow. 63% of the staff have gotten at least one dose. So, there you go. People are starting to stand up even more. Now, let's get into some other aspects of the headlines today, because we've been talking a lot about inflation. And we're all feeling the inflation, aren't we? All of us down here on this lower end of income makers. And it's literally, this is flattening the middle class curve, isn't it? This has been very hard on all of us. So think of it this way. For an average family, grocery bill, energy bill, keep, heating your house or cooling your house, gasoline bills, they've all gone up about 15 to 30%, depending on what part of the country you live in. And in certain pockets of the United States, rents have gone up too. Now, if I were to guess and try to do just a roundabout figure, I would say that costs have gone up on average for the average American, probably about $1,000 a month in extra costs. Now we're talking higher gasoline prices, increased costs in food, increased gas and heating and rents and all of this stuff, right? What does this do to the middle class? Well, it's sending millions of American families that were middle class into the ranks of poverty, isn't it? Now, a lot of families are able to adjust, aren't they? And, tighten the belt, so to speak. We can eat less. A lot of families are having to travel less entertainment. They're consolidating families. But, with the new rental rules, you can't just shack up anymore. You got to add that person to the lease. They have to qualify to be on the lease. They'll probably up your rent. So you're really not saving a lot of money. But millions of people simply don't have any options. It just is what it is. So your costs in life just went up 30%, 15 to 30%. And now you can't afford to live where you're at anymore. Now you've got to go rent a dump somewhere. Now, we were talking about this at the very beginning when the first stimulus checks went out in 2020. Even the one time that they did it, we knew this was going to have a lasting impact. The first time, which was under the Trump presidency. Both presidents are responsible. What should have happened is they should have let the economy be what it was, leave it alone. No lockdowns, no nothing. Obviously, it didn't work the way they planned it to. Let the economy continue to hum along and take the losses. That's what should have happened. But it didn't. And now we're all suffering because of it. Now, both administrations were in denial about inflation, but we all knew it was coming. You can't give away that much money and expect nothing to happen. It was almost a for sure thing. You just don't do that. You know, if you followed politics for as long as I have, you'll realize that even a 1% or 0.5% inflation was usually the difference between someone getting elected or not. They would go, oh, under that presidency, that person, inflation went up 2%. Now you guys, we're in double-digit inflation. Double digit. That hasn't happened in a very, very long time. And the media and the president are acting like it's no big deal. Well, it's no big deal for them, because once you get past the level of not having to worry about putting gas in your car or heating your house, on the things that you and I all worry about on our level, once you get past that level, they don't care. It doesn't matter because there's no threat in their life. That just means a little bit less profit in their life. That's all that means for them. It doesn't mean the difference between them being homeless or not. Whereas for us, that is the difference. No, none of us can afford an extra $1,000 a month. But yet here we are. Here we are. So they gave away all that money, and now we're paying it all back. And then some. For as long as they decide they want this to go on, right? Think about it. How much in total stimulus checks did you get? A few $1,000, maybe $4,000. I don't know what the number was. And then some people got unemployment for a couple years, right? Which you would have got some of that anyway. But I don't know what they did. What did they extend the unemployment benefit? I don't know exactly what happened. But basically, let's say in sum total, you got $8,000. Well, 30% increase in your cost of living, $1,000 a month, that's gone in 1 year. In other words, we've already paid that back. We've already paid it back. And then look, the costs are fixed now. They're not going to go back down. This is the new normal. And for the current administration to still be in denial about this, saying no big deal, it's simply shocking. Completely out of touch with probably 50 to 60% of America. But what did we expect, right? What did we expect? Let's read this. This element of Bo Jiven's agenda has led to higher inflation. Well, the whole thing has led to higher inflation from the very first stimulus check. White House has made a pivot in recent weeks to frame the president's current economic agenda as one that won't exacerbate inflation and might even help ease the ongoing price pressures. Blah, blah, blah. I'm not even going to read this. Just ridiculous. Just ridiculous. You can't give away all that money. The way to stop inflation is to let the economy keep going no matter what. You don't shut down an entire economy over a scare. So, look at this story. 100 children got the incorrect Vidco dose at a Maryland school. Unbelievable. So, think of the nightmare. You send your child to school. Let's read this. Nearly 100 children received an incorrect Vidco dose at an elementary school. Parents of 98 students who attend South Lake Elementary learned their children received doses of the Fizzer Pokemon sticker that were diluted more than recommended. They received the incorrect dose. We apologize for the error. We offered another opportunity for the children to be re-Pokemon stickered. I wouldn't let these people touch my children. Wow. So, what was it? More diluted, so they got less than they were supposed to? Well, what's the story here? Well, I guess that anything they do, it could have been the opposite, right? Could have been more concentrated. And then we would have been watching an episode of The Exorcist as their heads start spinning around. Look at these vials. Look at the color. Red and blue makes purple. Red and blue makes purple. Now, for our last story, Liar-in-Chief Ouchie warns of an uptick in hospitalizations amongst the fully Pokemon stickers. This is not good, you guys. This is the guy that got caught lying, trying to remind us that even if you got the first 2 stickers, you may still end up in the hospital unless you get the booster seat. We're not going to read that. All right, I'm going to go back in the chat here. So those are the headlines, you guys. Some pretty crazy stuff going on. We'll try to follow some of these stories. We're probably going to be getting a verdict pretty soon here on the Kenosha case. I probably won't do a separate video on that. We'll just maybe talk about it tomorrow on tomorrow's live show. But that's where we're at. All right, I'm in the chat now. What are you guys up to? There's Ann, T. Kerr, Tom, Warrior for Truth, Jacqueline. Notice how the lawyers are the ones getting rich off of all this stuff. Redeemed by all. Why are parents giving their children? Yeah, I agree 100%. There's Peggy, EABC, when the Morning Star sang together. So, I mean, the guy shouldn't even have his job anymore. He just shouldn't. And they keep running stories on him. Now, what do you think's going on with this whole thing where, remember under Thump, you know, you saw him get out in front of the, you know, he was giving speeches and stuff right next to Thump, or giving, you know, yeah, they were doing press conferences with him. And now we don't see that at all under Bo Jiven. We don't see Ouchie up there anywhere. Just kind of weird to me. Wonder what the thinking is behind there. What the op is behind that. Thanks, Strong Forever. Appreciate you guys showing up every day. Yeah, how did we know that it was a weak dilution? Life in the Shack. Jesus said, woe to the lawyers and doctors. I agree. Grim Reaper for sure, Gabby. Oh no. Court force mother refused the event and passed away. Sorry to hear that. Bosky Box says, not allowed near family. You know, it's interesting because seeing the same thing here, people that got the Pokemon sticker are more fearful than the people that have not. Even though they're supposed to be fully covered, they're starting to draw the lines and separating themselves from the rest of society. What was supposed to give them a sense of safety and security has given them actually more fear. Some of them are actually having breakthrough Vidco, and they still at that point can't understand, and they still blame the unPokemon stickered. Even at that point, after they've got both of their own Pokemon sticker, they're still blaming the people that haven't received it yet, because they're saying that it's because this thing has gone on so long, and that's what's put them at risk. And if everybody would just get it, then this would all be behind us. It's just saddens me to the core. The brainwashing. So, Build your house on the rock. All right, you guys. We'll cover some more headlines tomorrow. And as always, I'll put links to all this in the pinned comment. And, I was watching, I'm going to leave you guys with this. I was watching this new series. Well, it's not a new series. It's called Narcos Mexico. A lot of it's in Spanish. There's not a lot to decode, but I thought it was interesting because a lot of the plot of Narcos Mexico centers around NAFTA. And the corruption surrounding that. Of course, NAFTA was passed under Clinton back in the 90s. And what you don't realize is that a lot of the land that these Native American people in Mexico, which Mexico has a lot of Native Americans, a lot more than we do per capita, they had before this an agreement with the government that they could use all this land, right? And they had rights to it, and it was safe for them. Well, when NAFTA hit, all that went out the window. The Mexican government, basically, and other governments down in Mexico and other countries, basically sold out that land and allowed that land to now be owned by outside countries, i.e. the United States. Now, there's many, many reasons why NAFTA was a bad agreement. But one of the most heartbreaking reasons were that a lot of these people that lived off of the land, which is what we stand for, right? We stand for living off of land for free, which is the way it should be because it's God's. You can't put a price on what God created. But these people were kicked off their land. It was sold to U.S. corporations, which then built factories. Now, some people say, oh, well, those people could just go work at the factory. What if they don't want to work at the factory? So this article, and I'll pin this as well, explains what happened and how all the suffering happened. These people were kicked off their land. Some of them tried to form militias to fight back. And then the U.S. government helped fight those militias. This is the evil of America. This is the evil that we do with our tax dollars. This is why I don't pay a dime extra of what is owed to them. And every fiber of my body is to create, not give these people any more than they're owed or than they get, right? Now, of course, you get thrown in jail if you don't pay your taxes. But the way to do it is you make little bit of money that's not taxed. You try to build something that for the future that they can't tax. And you get out of the beast. You stop paying their mortgages. You stop paying all the things you stop trying to be rich. And stop trying to make all this money because all those tax dollars go to these types of things. It just breaks my heart reading what happened to these people down in Mexico. We wonder why we have all these problems, why we have all this migration. Well, look up what happened to the native people in these countries and what NAFTA did to them and how all their land was stolen. Where do you think they're going to go? They have nowhere to go. Where do you think they're going to go? It was our trade agreement that did that. Why? So we could have cheap bananas or cheap mangoes? Is it worth it? Is it worth it? I mean, are we really saving a lot of money by paying $2 for a bunch of bananas $1 for a bunch of bananas versus $2? When you add it all up, is it worth the pain and suffering these people had to go through in Mexico? I don't think so. I don't think so. So anyway, that's the story. There's some historical accuracy to the Narcos series, Narcos Mexico. They actually have clips from a lot of the talking heads. You see Clinton in there. You see news headlines, how they track down these traffickers and stuff. It's kind of interesting. There are subtitles, so you got to read through those. So it's kind of a bummer. But a lot of it's in English too. So that's just the truth. And no one ever talks about that, do we? Because we've been taught America first, and that's great in our own borders, but to go around and basically exploit other countries, that's not America first. That's evil. America first within our borders, yes, but not, you don't go around the world exploiting people. And if you think that's okay, then you need to pray about that, because it's not okay. That breaks the number one rule Jesus taught us. It's the exact same thing to when the person standing in front of you versus a person 2,000 miles away. It doesn't matter the distance. The act is the act. And what America and our government has done to South America is reprehensible. It's pure evil. And I don't care if we got cheaper goods or what. We don't need that. What we need is, we've got enough resources in America. You get what you get. You get what you get. And it's plenty in America. What, are we so spoiled? We have to have, all these little extras, and we have to have the shelves all full. Look how far that got us. Look where we're at now. Look at the shelves now. Aren't so full, are they? So what, we had full shelves and variety of all these things for, the last 30 years since NAFTA's been around? Was it worth it? For all the suffering we've caused? No, it wasn't. Absolutely not. If you're a Christian, you have to come to terms with that. And stop, running around with your flag and being so proud of our government. Because there's nothing to be proud of. Now, if you want to be proud about the people in America, you can do that. But understand, a lot of people believe that we should be over there kicking butt in other countries, and then we should take everything we can get. Pure greed. That's not the America that I want to believe in. That's not the America I want to believe in. Wasn't enough for us to take, which was already there, Mexico, even though it wasn't inhabited. It wasn't enough for us to do that, but now we had to go down and take even more with this trade agreement. All right, I love you guys. That's just some real talk. Some people aren't going to want to hear that, but it's the truth. All you got to do is read history. It's not widely talked about because nobody wants to talk about what we've done to other countries and other peoples. We are part of the problem of the corruption in Mexico. We are the corruption. Why? Because the trade agreement has emboldened the corruption in Mexico and also stolen a bunch of people's land. So I don't see any good in that. Unless you think that jar of ketchup that you got from Mexico for half price was worth it for a human life. I don't think so. Some people still do, though. Anyway, I love you guys, and we will see you guys all tomorrow. Take care and be safe.